A Cold War relic just became America's most dangerous bomber. A Cold War-era bomber has just become something far more dangerous. Right now, 45 B-1B Lancers are being transformed into a weapon unlike anything the world has seen before. As China and Russia push to develop hypersonic weapons, the U.S. Air Force has found a way to turn this aging bomber into a massive missile carrier. We're talking about an aircraft that could carry up to 36 hypersonic missiles, more firepower than many entire air forces possess. The Pentagon sees it as a temporary solution. Military analysts see a potential game changer, and America's adversaries are paying close attention. This is more than just an upgrade. It's a transformation. The B-1B Lancer was once expected to retire. Plans were already in place, with the newer, stealthier B-21 Raider set to eventually replace it in the 2030s. But then something unexpected happened. Engineers discovered that this 40-year-old bomber could perform a role no other aircraft in America's arsenal could match. And that discovery may have changed the future of U.S. air power. Introduction. Welcome to Jet Intel. What you're about to hear isn't speculation. The Air Force's fiscal year 2026 budget includes $50 million for the External Heavy Stores Pylon program, essentially a system designed to let the B-1B carry additional weapons externally. The Lancer was never designed to carry weapons traveling at 5 times the speed of sound. Before this upgrade, it could carry 24 missiles internally. Now, the goal is to increase that capacity to 36, potentially giving the bomber a massive boost in hypersonic strike capability. If you believe America still builds the world's most advanced military hardware, type PROUD in the comments below. The bone gets new teeth. Let's start with why this upgrade is so significant. The B-1B earned its nickname, the Bone, from pilots who shortened B-1 to Bone. For decades, it served as America's conventional bombing workhorse. It flew combat missions over Iraq, struck Taliban positions in Afghanistan, and launched missiles against Syrian targets in 2018. More recently, B-1Bs even completed a demanding 34-hour mission from Dyess Air Force Base in Texas to strike targets in Iraq and Syria without landing. But here's what almost nobody expected. While attention focused on the new B-21 stealth bomber, Boeing engineers were quietly developing load-adaptable modular pylons. These aren't ordinary weapon racks. They're advanced mounting systems designed to carry heavy external payloads. The B-1B has 6 external hardpoints that were sealed decades ago after arms control agreements ended its nuclear mission. Now those hardpoints are being brought back into play. Think about the possibilities. A single B-1B operating from Guam could potentially carry long-range missiles externally while also loading additional weapons inside its bomb bays. That could give one bomber an enormous amount of strike power, and hypersonic weapons make the concept even more significant. The Air Force has tested the AGM-183A air-launched rapid response weapon, designed to reach speeds above Mach 5. With internal bays and external pylons, the B-1B could potentially carry a large number of these weapons. That means a bomber designed decades ago could become a powerful platform for launching next-generation hypersonic weapons. Before we go deeper, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it helps us bring more stories like this one. From nuclear striker to missile truck. To understand why this matters, we need to look at where the B-1B came from. Back in 1955, the Air Force wanted a bomber that combined the B-52's range and payload with the Mach 2 speed of newer supersonic aircraft. The result was the B-1A, which first flew in December 1974. President Carter canceled the program in 1977, calling it too expensive. Then in 1981, President Reagan revived it with major changes. The B-1B sacrificed some speed for improved stealth. Its maximum speed dropped from Mach 2.2 to Mach 1.25, but its radar cross-section was reduced dramatically. Its payload increased to 75,000 pounds, making it the heaviest lifting bomber in the U.S. inventory. Its variable sweep wings also gave it tremendous versatility, wings forward for greater range and swept back for high-speed flight and low-level penetration. Between 1985 and 1988, B-1Bs rolled off the production line and became a major part of America's strategic bomber force during the final years of the Cold War. Each aircraft could carry 24 nuclear-tipped cruise missiles. But after the Soviet Union collapsed and the New START Treaty was signed, everything changed. During the mid-1990s, the B-1B's nuclear capability was completely removed, leaving conventional bombing as its primary mission. That transition ultimately saved the bone. While the B-2 Spirit remained focused on strategic missions, the B-1B became a go-to platform for regional conflicts. Its enormous payload allowed it to remain over the battlefield for hours, delivering precision-guided weapons and providing close air support. Special operations forces in Afghanistan valued having a B-1B overhead because it meant rapid access to heavy firepower when needed. But years of combat operations took their toll. The hot, dusty environments of Iraq and Afghanistan were extremely hard on the aircraft. Every flight hour could require as much as 48 hours of maintenance, leaving some B-1Bs spending more time in maintenance facilities than in the sky. By 2021, the Air Force decided to retire 17 of the least serviceable aircraft. The plan was to keep the remaining fleet operational until enough B-21 Raiders were available. Then Boeing engineers started thinking differently. What if, instead of simply maintaining the B-1B, they made it more capable? What if the bone could become something entirely new? The upgrade that changed everything. The breakthrough came when engineers realized the B-1B's external hardpoints could be brought back into service. These weren't simple mounting points. Each pylon had originally been designed to handle a 50,000-pound payload, and modern materials and computer-aided design opened the door to a new generation of stronger, more capable pylons. Wind tunnel testing began in fiscal year 2026. Engineers used computational fluid dynamics simulations to study airflow around the pylons and tested different configurations with various weapon shapes. They also verified that the aircraft's center of gravity remained within safe limits across different loadouts. But the software was just as important as the hardware. The B-1B's stores management system needed updates to recognize the new pylon stations. Weapon release profiles had to be developed for safe external carriage, while new interlocks were required to prevent accidental releases or unsafe flight conditions. The ultimate goal was clear: create a platform capable of testing and eventually carrying hypersonic weapons. The B-52 fleet was already facing a massive modernization workload, including new engines, radar, and communication systems. Adding hypersonic testing would put even more pressure on that fleet. The B-1B offered another option. Lieutenant Colonel Scott Ponser of the 419th Flight Test Squadron explained the concept. The new pylon system allows the aircraft to carry different weapons in multiple configurations, creating new weapon delivery and testing possibilities that weren't available before. And hypersonics aren't the only advantage. The new pylons could also support long-range anti-ship missiles, giving the B-1B a stronger role against high-threat maritime targets. With China rapidly expanding its navy, the ability to launch anti-ship weapons from hundreds of miles away could become extremely valuable. The Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile also benefits. A B-1B can already carry 24 JASSM missiles internally. Adding external pylons could potentially increase that number to 36 missiles. That would transform the bone into a massive long-range strike platform, capable of launching a huge salvo of precision weapons from well outside the range of many enemy defenses. The B-1B wasn't supposed to become this powerful, but now the old bomber may be getting a completely new role. Why this matters right now. The timing helps explain why this upgrade has suddenly become so urgent. The Pentagon is facing what military planners often describe as the bomber bathtub. As older B-1Bs and B-2s are gradually retired, the number of operational bombers continues to shrink. Meanwhile, the B-21 Raider is still years away from reaching full-scale production. That creates a dangerous capability gap, leaving the United States with fewer bombers at a time when global tensions are increasing. China is the most obvious concern. Beijing has increased bomber patrols around Taiwan, while the People's Liberation Army Navy operates multiple aircraft carriers, with additional carriers under construction. Chinese anti-ship ballistic missiles also pose a serious threat to U.S. carrier strike groups across the Western Pacific. In this environment, long-range strike capability has become more important than ever. The war in Ukraine has demonstrated another reality of modern warfare. Precision-guided weapons can be consumed at an extraordinary rate. The ability to deliver large volumes of firepower, rapidly and from long distances, can have a major impact on the battlefield. A single B-1B carrying dozens of standoff weapons can provide an enormous amount of combat power in a single mission. Then there is Iran. Recent strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities demonstrated how difficult it can be to penetrate heavily defended airspace. Stealth platforms, such as the B-2, are ideal for the initial penetration mission. But once enemy air defenses are degraded, follow-on strikes still require significant firepower. That is where a heavily armed B-1B equipped with advanced long-range or hypersonic weapons could become extremely valuable. The combination of speed, massive payload capacity, and standoff range gives commanders options that were previously unavailable. Cost is another factor that cannot be ignored. The B-1B is estimated to cost roughly $63,000 per flight hour, compared with about $72,000 for the B-52 and significantly more for the B-2. In theory, multiple B-1B missions could deliver substantial firepower for the cost of a single B-2 sortie. Critics may argue that the money should instead be directed toward purchasing more B-21 Raiders. After all, expanding the stealth bomber fleet would seem like the better long-term solution, but that argument overlooks one major limitation. The B-21 production line is still ramping up. Even if Congress dramatically increased funding tomorrow, Northrop Grumman could not instantly produce large numbers of additional aircraft. Industrial capacity takes time to build. Upgrading the B-1B therefore offers something the B-21 cannot provide in large numbers yet: additional combat capability in the near term, while the next generation of stealth bombers gradually enters service. And for the growing community of military veterans, aviation enthusiasts, and defense followers watching these developments, this is a story worth following closely. If you appreciate the men and women who fly, maintain, and support these incredible machines, you're in the right place. The global response: other countries are watching these developments closely. Chinese state media has already published reports discussing the B-1B modernization, with particular attention focused on its potential hypersonic weapons capability. Beijing understands that if U.S. bombers can launch Mach 5 plus weapons from hundreds or even 1,000 miles away, Chinese air defense systems would face an extremely difficult challenge. Hypersonic weapons are designed to move at extraordinary speeds while maintaining maneuverability, making them far more difficult to track and intercept than traditional missiles. The combination of speed, range, and unpredictable flight paths creates a serious problem for existing defensive systems. Russia faces a similar concern despite having developed its own hypersonic weapons. Russian air defense networks were not originally designed to deal with large-scale bomber attacks involving modern precision standoff weapons. During the Cold War, Soviet planners primarily prepared for the possibility of a massive nuclear confrontation rather than extended conventional campaigns involving large numbers of precision weapons. A B-1B carrying dozens of advanced missiles could therefore present a significant challenge to defensive networks that were built around very different assumptions. The effects go beyond China and Russia. North Korea is also closely watching these developments, particularly because its aging air defense systems would struggle against modern U.S. bombers operating from long distances. Iran faces similar concerns after recent strikes demonstrated vulnerabilities within its air defense network. Even countries that remain neutral have reasons to take notice. American long-range aviation continues to demonstrate a technological advantage that is evolving rapidly. U.S. allies also stand to benefit. Japan, South Korea, and Australia all face potential security challenges from China's expanding military capabilities. The knowledge that American bombers can deliver enormous amounts of firepower from protected standoff distances provides an additional layer of reassurance. European NATO members are watching as well. For them, the B-1B upgrade signals that the United States is not abandoning conventional strike capability in favor of relying exclusively on a smaller number of highly sophisticated platforms. The B-1B is also becoming more visible internationally. In July 2025, a B-1B deployed to Royal Air Force Fairford in the United Kingdom for the Royal International Air Tattoo. Its appearance represented a rare public demonstration of the aircraft in Europe and reinforced the message of continued U.S. commitment to transatlantic security. Meanwhile, Bomber Task Force deployments to Guam continue to demonstrate America's ability to project long-range air power across the Indo-Pacific. The message is clear. The B-1B may be an aging bomber, but its modernization could give it a significant role in America's future long-range strike strategy. What comes next? The current plan is to keep roughly 44 to 45 B-1Bs in operational service through at least 2032, with the possibility of extending their service into 2036. Several aircraft that had been retired and placed in storage at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Arizona, are now being brought back into service. This regeneration strategy has already proven useful. When a B-1B suffered significant fire damage during maintenance at Dyess Air Force Base in 2022, the Air Force chose to reactivate a stored aircraft rather than spend heavily on repairing the damaged bomber. At the same time, major infrastructure improvements are taking place. Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota temporarily moved its B-1B fleet to Grand Forks, while runway construction was underway. These improvements are designed to support the eventual transition to the B-21, while ensuring existing bomber operations can continue. The External Heavy Stores Pylon program is also progressing across multiple fiscal years. Early funding is focused on wind tunnel testing, engineering, and software development. Later funding will support production of the pylons and their integration onto operational aircraft. Once the system reaches the testing phase, flight trials, including live weapon release demonstrations, will follow. By the end of the decade, combat-coated B-1Bs could begin operating regularly with significantly heavier external weapons loads. Hypersonic weapon development is advancing alongside the bomber modernization effort. The Air Force is pursuing both the Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, or ARRW, boost glide concept, as well as air-breathing hypersonic cruise missile technology. Both concepts are intended to provide compatibility with the B-1B. Using the Lancer as an additional test platform also reduces pressure on the already heavily utilized B-52 test fleet. More importantly, it provides valuable operational data on how hypersonic weapons can be employed from a high-speed bomber platform. The B-1B may be an aging aircraft, but its future is far from over. The old bomber is getting new teeth, and those teeth could be far sharper than America's adversaries expected. Conclusion: a bomber that was designed in the 1970s and entered service in the 1980s may now have a new role well into the 2030s and beyond. The B-1B Lancer demonstrates how carefully planned modernization can extend the usefulness of an aircraft that many once considered outdated. While much of the world has focused on stealth technology and next-generation platforms, American engineers have found ways to transform an existing aircraft into a potentially powerful strategic asset. Consider the numbers: around 45 bombers, with each aircraft potentially carrying up to 36 weapons. That represents more than 1,600 weapons that could theoretically be delivered from standoff distances, giving commanders a massive amount of long-range firepower. The calculation is straightforward. The strategic implications are much bigger. If you found this analysis useful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more in-depth coverage of military aviation, advanced weapons, and America's evolving air power strategy. The story of American air power is still being written, and you won't want to miss what comes next.